In the lively town of Cheeseburgerville, Nyo, Tom, and Jerry decided to take on an epic challenge. Inspired by a recent baking competition, they agreed to bake the largest cake in the world. With visions of sugar, cream, and towering layers, they eagerly set off on their baking adventure. Early the next morning, Nyo and Jerry met in the kitchen, ready to create their culinary masterpiece. They made a long list of ingredients, including flour, sugar, eggs, butter, and all sorts of delicious toppings. "Let's get everything we need," Jerry suggested as he dashed off to gather the ingredients. Nyo grabbed a large mixing bowl and a whisk, chuckling at the thought of how massive their cake would be. As they worked together, they filled the kitchen with laughter and chatter, getting all the supplies ready. With all the ingredients spread out before them, they began to mix the batter. Nyo poured flour and sugar into the bowl while Jerry cracked eggs and whisked them together. "Be careful with those eggs," Nyo said playfully, watching Jerry put in the last egg. "Oops, I think I cracked one too hard," Jerry giggled, his little cheeks full of flour and egg splatters. In no time, they had a giant bowl of cake batter. Nyo proudly tilted his head and declared, "Let's make 3 layers for our giant cake." Jerry nodded enthusiastically, and they began pouring equal amounts of batter into 3 large cake pans. After sliding the pans into the oven, the aroma of baking cake filled the kitchen. "It smells amazing," Jerry squeaked, his nose twitching with excitement. "Just wait until it's done," Nyo replied, visualizing the delicious cake they were about to create. As they waited for the cakes to bake, they prepared frosting and toppings, rich chocolate icing, rainbow sprinkles, and fresh fruits to make it truly special. Finally, the timer rang, and Nyo rushed to pull the pans from the oven. "Look at these beautiful cake layers," he exclaimed, as the scent wafted through the room. With the layers cooled, they began to assemble their cake. They placed 1 layer on the table, spread a thick layer of frosting on top, and then carefully stacked the second layer on top. "This is going to be the biggest cake ever," Jerry shouted gleefully, helping to frost the top layer. As they placed the final layer on, Nyo looked at Jerry with a big smile. "Let's make it taller with some fun decorations." They began piling on layers of frosting, fruits, and candy on top. Once the cake was completed, it stood magnificently tall and colorful. Nyo and Jerry admired their hard work, but then it struck Jerry. "Wait, who gets the biggest piece when we cut it?" he asked, his eyes narrowing. "I think I should get the biggest piece since I did most of the work," Nyo replied confidently. Jerry puffed up. "Oh no, I did just as much. I want the biggest piece." This led to a playful argument as they both argued over who deserved the larger slice of cake. Their friendly disagreement escalated into a comical showdown, with both competing over who should cut the first piece. They grabbed forks and pretended to duel, each trying to claim the biggest piece. "En garde!" Jerry shouted playfully, swinging his fork. Suddenly, in their frenzy, Jerry accidentally bumped into the massive cake, causing it to wobble dangerously. With a loud thud, the towering cake tottered before toppling over with a spectacular splat. Cake layers slid, frosting flew, and colorful toppings scattered everywhere. "No!" they both shouted, their eyes wide, as they watched their beautiful cake turn into a giant mess. Covered in frosting and bits of cake, they looked at each other in shock. After a moment of stunned silence, laughter erupted between them. Realizing their silly bickering had led to this disaster, Nyo and Jerry burst into laughter as they brushed frosting off their clothes. "Well, I guess we won't have to worry about who gets the biggest piece," Nyo chuckled. "Let's just enjoy it together." Jerry grinned,